And we'll start with the color theory lecture. Before I do that, I want to give everyone sorry, I'm still scanning participants, trying to figure out. I said I wasn't going to let it distract me, but this is going to bother me the entire class. I'm sorry, everyone. I will do my best.
Now you're recording, so we have to stop recording and then fix it and then start.
That's true. I always, when I post the class videos, like I'll go cut out like breakout room time or break time, so you know it's not as so long. And then the people who are going to watch this will be like, "What are they talking about?" So let me check my email one more time because it just dinged, just to see if we can have a resolution to this. Okay, so I lost my phone. Oh, okay. Well, okay. So did you all pick your favorite project from each group? So I am going to, and I closed the breakout room. If I hit breakout rooms, it'll bring up the same list. So room 1, share your favorite with everybody.
Okay, so I think we were group 1. And this is my picture of my little girl. The little bun with the curly cues going up. I gave her a little earring, some eyes, eyebrows, her little baby nose, cute mouth. And then I like that just for like a disc shaped looking thing, kind of like a collar. And this is everything that I used. So that is my little girl.
That's really cool. The ones that I did see turned in were really well done. You all got the hang of it. I really like that one. Okay, room 2.
I think that was my group.
Oh, I can read off if you, it's Mallory, Melissa, and
Okay.
Paige.
Perfect. So this.
Ooh.
Oh, that's really cool. Sorry, I'm plugging into Zoom to try to fix this. So go ahead and talk about it a little bit. I'm letting you entertain each other while I
Okay. I had another document that had like what I use. I forgot that the font that I used, but I definitely like morphed the mouth a little bit. So it was just 4 dots and I just expanded them out and then used the greater than and less than sign symbols for the sides of the mouth. And then yeah, I don't know.
Okay, sorry, hold on. I think I fixed it. But I still don't know what happened to Ashley. She was here. I don't think that anything.
What did you do for the lips? Because those are hearts, right? And then did you do like a bloating or like a pinching or what? How did you kind of alter those hearts to make it fit like that?
Yeah, so they're actually, it's only 4 dots, kind of like what the top of the earring is, or like the circle part. I just use that and I put 4 of them, and then I kind of morph them out. And then, can you guys see my mouse or no?
Yeah.
Okay, dope. So like the corners of the mouth, I used the greater than and less than signs, and then I bolded them and then just kind of like drag them in kind of thing. And then did the same thing over here. But yeah, so they're just like 4 dots and then just drag them out.
Okay. I think I saw that one earlier. You did have yours turned in, right? I remember this space.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool. I love to see what everyone comes up with for this. It's really a fun creative project. And yeah, this one's really cool.
Thank you.
So we'll go to group 3. And again, I'm still troubleshooting this.
Only
I
one person could
apologize.
share our screen, so I don't even know if I could.
Oh, you
but, like,
can.
Hello,
Yeah. I'm
is
sorry.
that our group? Or
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's room
Yeah, that's ours.
3, which
Okay.
would be Brianna, Danielle, and Danielle.
okay, I think they said mine.
Yes.
I believe. I don't have mine on my laptop though, so if you can pull it up.
Okay, hold on.
yeah, I'm still getting like open system preferences, so I'm trying to figure that out still. Why it doesn't let me share it
I'm
all.
gonna skip to 4 and then come back to 3.
Yeah, go ahead. 4, go ahead and go. And I can download. So it was Brianna's was the favorite for room 3?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll pull it up. And group 4, go ahead and go.
It should be sharing. Is it
Yeah,
good?
I see it.
Okay. So yeah, I kind of just started with like letters. I wrote a word out, and then I changed some of the letters because they didn't all fit. Like there was an I in there before. I don't know, something. And then the J I used for the bottom part, like the base of the chin, and then I cut that off with the scissor. I like took slices out until it kind of fit.
This is very cool. I like that it's not enclosed, but you still get like almost like shading of like, you know, a profile, and you still see the face. It's
Yeah.
a good character.
Like I was saying, I was jealous of the ears because I didn't do anything. I feel like it's kind of missing, but
That looks good. Okay. So I'm still downloading. Hold on. Thank you all for your patience today. I feel like we're off to a very rocky start. And this is a super fun week of class. So, okay. I'm going to download. Okay, I have it up here. Let me screen share with everyone. You want to go ahead and talk about it?
So I mean, what I did was I used the like when you do the text box, like the first word, how it's the lorem, all of that is just made composed of that. So, and I like used the knife tool for like the cheeks and stuff, because that was like, I believe that was an R, and then the E is a mouth. So, and the L is the nose. So, yeah.
That's it. It's easy, right?
hmm
This is not an assignment to overthink at all. Let's see. So everybody take a good look at this one. Since I don't have them all on my computer, I'm gonna give you a poll and we'll go back. I'll stop sharing. Remember this one. And then group 1, pull yours up one more time. And then we'll go through, everyone take one more look and then we'll vote on our favorite. Okay, so remember group 1 was the bun and the cute little face. Group 2. Oh yeah, that one was cool too. So remember this one. 3, I just showed you 3, and then 4, Corey. All right, so now I'm gonna launch a poll. And you can vote on your favorite. Everyone is a winner. Everyone is a winner, but it's sometimes it's fun to have like a winner. Just like whoever wins can feel really good about themselves. I used to do this, except the guy that got kicked out earlier. Yeah, I'm still working on that, but I feel like it's, like I said, it's becoming a distraction. Oh no. Well, I looked up how to let someone back in. I just haven't, it's going to take me a minute to go do that. So I don't want to keep all of you waiting because one person didn't do what they were supposed to do, but that's what's going to end up happening. So it looks like number 2, was that Mallory's?
Yeah, that was mine.
Awesome. That one was really cool. They were all really good. I love this assignment. And even though, so let's see, Mallory came in with 6 votes out of 12. So 50% of the votes went to number 2. So Mallory's the winner. Corey thinks this whole situation is really funny. I'm glad. But yeah, so when I would do this assignment in class, they'd be printed out and all lined up, and I'd have people take a whiteboard because it's against the whiteboard and just vote for their favorites. And there's always, it can be hard to put your work up and let it actually be judged in this space. But if you were even in that poll, you automatically won your group. And then it's just fun sometimes to give someone those accolades and say, yours was the best. We all loved it. But this project is really purely creative. So there's really not like a wrong way to do this assignment. The intention and the reason I give this assignment semester after semester, even though it's not your conventional typography assignment, is because it does help you start seeing these letter forms. And you may have never worked with type outside of just typing type. You know what I mean? So as you really get into design, you don't just settle on type by what you actually just type out. You can manipulate it and you can adjust it. And so it's a good way to get started understanding that you have that ability and then just get to make something fun. So you all did a really good job and I can't wait to see the rest of them and see what you come up with. So with that, I'm going to take 5 minutes and let this person into Zoom. So everybody take a break, and at 6:05, we will start our color theory lecture, okay?
every once in a while, Professor, I don't know what it is, but I just get the giggles. Sometimes like that's just the best way to explain it. And something just keeps being funny in my head. And I
Well,
had to kind of
this is funny. Like what has happened here is funny. This has never actually happened to me before. And I mean, I think this is actually kind of funny. So I'm allowing remove participants to rejoin. And I just feel bad. I mean, this is your time. So, and this is how it is every time. Like if we get done, then you can go about your evenings and not worry about, like be here longer than you need to be and work on your project. So I just feel bad that I feel like this is a waste of your time.
yes, but I think you've scheduled this class until 8, and we've been
Yes.
getting out before than that, and we've been having less content than that. And so I think that even if we just kind of make sure everyone's here and then go, we'll still be
Okay.
within the
Good.
limit. So I think everybody here was scheduled for that.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. The class is also so long. It's one night a week, but also when we were in the lab, then you would just sit and you get to work on your project. So now that we're still virtual, I feel like, go work and then come back and ask questions. So it tends to be quicker just because we don't have that like sitting and working time. But yeah, also, so this should be fixed. We'll wait for this person to join. And let me get my windows back organized.
I've noticed that whatever profile I'm logged into, like on my browser, that I open up Canvas on, that's what email it will put in for Zoom, and that's what it'll
Interesting.
open up. Yeah. And so if that person's like on their phone or something, that's why I might have said Galaxy, because
I think that's why this particular student said they lost their phone and were logging on from somewhere else. So, but and that's fine. If that happens to you, you can also, now we know if this is going to happen to any of you, email me and let me know. Just, hey, heads up, I'll be logging in from my phone. But you, like I said, once you're in here, you need to pay attention if we're talking to you. And it is also hard to respond to chats if you're on a mobile device. I forgot about that fact. And I actually had a feeling it might be a student, but then when they didn't respond, I was like, well, I don't want to I don't know. You remember at the beginning of 2020 when everyone started using Zoom and they're like, Zoom crashers, scary. And I'm like, why? That's never happened to me. But I think it still got in my head that like, someone might be trying to log in that's not supposed to be here. Anyway. So with that, I want to wait until this person gets in so we can start our lecture with them. And yeah, on top of everything, it's just been crazy times, huh? Like today especially. It's been.
Are we talking international or are we?
Yeah, I'm talking international.
Okay,
like
okay.
It's been stress. Like, I mean, we've had to deal with the pandemic, and then now we have to deal with just the state of the world. So I like to be respectful of everyone as my student. Now I have an interruption. There might be a guest walking into the studio. You can come in if you need to. So we have another interruption today, which is fun. My partner at the design studio is here, and I think he forgot something and he's coming in to look for it. But as I was saying before this also happened, I like to be respectful of all of your time too as my students. Just because you're the student and I'm the teacher doesn't mean that I can just do whatever. What do you mean?
Oh, you're waving me in.
Oh, you can't. Okay. No, come meet them since this has been a weird class. So say hello. Class, this is my business partner, Mike Willis. He's also a graphic
Mike
designer.
Willis.
Hi,
How's it going?
I'm an old graphic designer.
Mhm.
This is what you look like after you've been a graphic designer for 40 years.
Okay. Good.
All right, bye. So I forgot that his daughter lives next door and he's just here to pick her up for dinner. But he's like looking at me out the window. So I thought, oh, is he asking if he can come in? So I'm like, you can come in, because I thought he forgot something. And then he's like, I'm just picking up my daughter for dinner. So this is the weirdest class I have ever had, everybody. So welcome to the show. Anyway, that student is still not in, even though I told them I fixed it. We will wait no longer. We're going to move forward. We're going to rally and have a great color theory lecture. So before I start the lecture, I have one more poll, and I love to know the answer to this question. I just launched it. It would not let me pick more than these options. So like violet, purple, if you think lavender or turquoise or those off colors, you just got to pick the closest one. All right. I like Jacob's new profile picture as well. Do you make those yourself?
Actually, no, it's from this. Am I back?
Yeah.
So it's from this website that I can't read because everything's in some form of Japanese.
Oh.
Someone did it. I was in a Discord and someone else started it, and then we all did it. And then every once in a while I like to do it again. I was looking at it again because I found it and I was like, I don't like that other one anymore. My hair's not that color. So I went and did a new one, and they changed like all the poses and the outfits. So I was like, oh, that's what I did before class today. I was like, oh, let me just mess with that.
I like it.
Thank you.
And so I'm going to share this. I'm going to share the poll results. Remember this information as we move into the lecture. So most of you, I mean, with such a small class, the percentages get skewed, but 5 of you said green and only 1 said blue, which is super interesting. 3 purple. So we'll talk about this more as we move through the lecture, but I think this is really interesting. I'm going to screen capture really quick and you'll see why. Okay. I'm going to pop over to my email one more time to see what this response is. Still the same. I don't know what to tell you. I turned it off. Okay. Like I said, I'm going to stop letting us distract. I just have to move forward with the class, but I should probably let them know that. So. Okay. Moving on, I'm going to screen share. All of these things are up for later. I'm going to move to PowerPoint right now. And let's start this PowerPoint. So it's color theory week, like I mentioned. If any of you have taken art, you might be familiar with the color wheel, and this is a good place to always start. So the color wheel has the primary colors, and then as you move along the wheel, it's how the colors mix, and then you have complementary colors and tertiary colors, and you can cross and see how these colors relate to each other. So when we talk about color in design, there's different types of color. So RGB is red, green, blue. There's lots of acronyms and things like that in design. So RGB is red, green, blue, and that is the mixing of color through mixing light. So that is what you will use for screens. And then if you're actually printing something, you work in what's called CMYK, and that's cyan, magenta, yellow, and the K is for black. And if you've ever used a printer and opened it up and have seen the different kinds of inks, that's what CMYK is. And then hexadecimal is the web coding for, and it's still RGB. It's just a different form of color identification. And then PMS is for Pantone matching systems. People not in design always think that PMS is really funny as the acronym for this, but it's just what it's just what we call it. I'm so used to it. But Pantone is actually pigmented. No one, I would say never, but rarely, people rarely use Pantone the way it's intended. Most of the time, like I have all of these color books and I will show clients just to make sure, like, if they don't have, you know, you could be seeing an entirely different thing on someone else's screen and the color could read differently, and then they get it printed out. Or I have clients that I've sent links to for their mock-ups or something, and they'll identify something as a completely different color than what I'd call it. So it's like, okay, let's make sure we're all on the same page here. So Pantone, if you're truly getting something created or printed in Pantone, you actually use Pantone inks that are created for this color. But Pantone also has the CMYK equivalent in all of their swatch books. So that's what this is showing you. On this side, this is the actual Pantone color, and then this is the CMYK equivalent. And you can see there's a slight variation among these, but it's a good way to have a universal matching system that people can see and all know when you're printing something. And you never know how people's monitors are calibrated either. Things are getting so good nowadays that monitors and phone screens and things like that are rarely as off. But you know, sometimes I'll look at something too. And do you ever have your my phone like automatically dims and brightens? But every once in a while, I'll like change that setting and be like, why is everything so dark? And then realize like, oh, I have my phone setting to be really dark. So on screens, you never quite know what someone can see. But in print and through these color codes and these different numerical systems, that is how we can all make sure we're on the same page. So RGB is, these are all consisting of different numbers to identify them. And we'll get into that. And then hexadecimal and PMS, again, they have numbers attached to identify them. So CMYK, subtractive, mixing colored pigments. This is just like mixing paints or inks in real life. Like if you want to make green, you get blue and you get yellow. RGB is additive. So mixing colored light, like the colors you see on your computer or TV screen. For me, this is less intuitive. So when I'm working in Illustrator, I almost always start in CMYK to change my colors, just because it's more intuitive for me to know I need to add more yellow, I need to add more magenta. But you can just, you know, start moving those sliders around, and when you like it, you like it. Same with the eyedropper. And I'll show you how to do some color selecting through Adobe Tools after this lecture. So achieving harmony in color. Colors should be chosen to deliver an enhanced aesthetic appeal and a better user experience. That means it's a good idea to think about what color scheme you will use at the start of the design process. The way colors are combined can either add to the look and feel or detract from it. And this is totally true. Colors need to, again, I use the word harmony a lot, harmoniously or complementing, or like just making sure your entire design feels cohesive and everything has an intention and purpose. So again, this gets into the color wheel, and you can see how there are different color schemes that you can use. You can use analogous, which means all the colors are in the same family next to each other. Complementary is when they're straight across from each other. Primary, secondary, or tertiary. And again, I'm sure you may not be designing with that intent and saying like, oh, I need a complementary color. You'll start doing these things instinctually, but it helps to know what these words are. So as you're making these decisions, you can say, this is why I did this. Monochromatic schemes. The monochromatic scheme is based on the colors created from different tints, tones, and shades of one hue. In theory, it's the simplest of all design schemes. A monochromatic scheme is commonly used in minimal designs because one hue should result in a less distracting layout. You can build monochromatic palette out of shades, tones, and tints. So this is just an example of how shades, tones, and tints work together. And then this is taking an image and essentially finding, sorry about that, a monochromatic color palette within this image over here. You'll start to notice when you look at designs based on like what's the brand's intention and what type of message they're trying to convey, what color palette they use. And you'll start seeing that a lot of brands that are trying to be luxury or elevated really dial down the use of colors. Like if you like Google any, like most cars, things like that, there aren't a lot of like bright colors used in logos and things like that. We'll get into that more later. So I really have trouble clicking PowerPoints. Okay. Analogous color scheme. So the analogous color scheme is based on 3 colors located next to each other on the color wheel. This scheme can easily be found in nature. Just think of trees in the autumn as leaves change color. I really like a good color palette like this. It makes everything feel really harmonious, and it's an easy way to know that these things go together. They sit next to each other. They are very similar and they're made to go together. The one issue that could result with this is lack of contrast, but you'll see even within these interior design examples that you can still use tints and shades and have an analogous color palette. So complementary colors. Complementary color schemes use one or more pairs of that color when combined. They essentially cancel each other out. So for example, when you combine 2 colors, they produce white or black or something very similar on the grayscale. When you put 2 complementary colors next to each other, they show the greatest contrast. In modern color theory, the pairs are red, cyan, green, magenta, and blue and yellow. So red and green are complementary colors, and blue and yellow, and then yellow and purple. And a lot of times too, you have to be careful. You think like, okay, this will add a lot of contrast, but when you pay attention to the value of that color too, because you can get like that vibration between colors that are complementary because they're really fighting each other. So 10 commandments of color theory. So you can, yeah.
Sorry, excuse me. That last part that you just said about the colors right next to each other, what, can you explain on that a little bit better?
I can't. I breezed past it because I realized I have a slide for it.
Oh, okay.
But I will explain it. So colors that have the exact same value but are opposites, when you put them next to each other, they will like literally vibrate. Like it feels like they're moving, and it can really bother some people's eyes. So you like, if you want to have that effect, it's a good tool to use, but it can really affect legibility. And I have a slide, I think, that shows the color vibrations on top of each other, and we can talk about that more.
Okay, thank you.
So, and I'll put this PowerPoint, I think, is in the module. We'll check the module if it's not, and I can upload it so you can go back and review some of these graphics because they're really useful. This is all stuff I found off the internet just to support my lecture. So you can find countless color theory information, but like I said, Adobe now has a tool that replaces all of these other links that I used to provide to you, and we'll go over that, and it's really cool and it'll help you all a lot. So know the color wheel and do know the color wheel well. Do know what each color signifies. So we'll get into color psychology, but colors do have meanings associated with them. These can be cultural, they can be geographical, and just like personal experiences too with how people perceive and react to color. And it's important to try to guess what your end user will feel when they see your designs. So you can always, if you're not sure, you can match it. And that's that analogous color palette where it's like use two colors in the same family to create like a nice harmony. And you can always clash it, which means you can use the complementary color. And see, this is vibrating. Do you see that vibration of that lime green on that like coral, bright coral pink? Like when you look at it, it feels like those edges, there's just like a color tension there, and it feels like it's a vibrating color. This blue, this turquoise and magenta is doing the same thing. But when you look at this red and this orange, it's not. I don't know if you all see it. I can see it, but we'll look at more of that. So you can do a split. You can do a double complementary. You can pick a triad of colors, a monochromatic palette. You can always just use a black and white color scheme. And then I'm moving you all over. Know your hues, tints, and shades and what works where. And lastly, you have to understand RGB versus CMYK, and they're not all the same, which we went over that a little bit. I think is there something in the chat? Let's see. Oh, I also have a link. I would like to know if anyone is colorblind. You don't have to share if you're not comfortable sharing, but I have had students with color deficiencies before in class. So I do have a color test in the module, and you can all see how well you can actually see color. So color psychology is the study of hues as a determinant of human behavior. Color influences perceptions that are not obvious, such as the taste of food. Colors can also enhance the effectiveness of placebos. Factors such as gender, age, and culture can influence how an individual perceives color. So we've talked about this before. We all move through the world based on our own experiences, and we react to everything based on our own life experiences. So color, I tell my daughter this all the time. I'm like, color doesn't have a gender. Because, she's that age where it's like, oh, girls like pink. And I always like try to break that down. And her favorite color is green. And someone told her like, you can't like green. And I'm like, you go back and you tell that kid who's probably your age, color doesn't have a gender. My husband's always like, they're 5, like, just let it go. But we do have associations with color based on our experiences, where we were born, how we were raised, and all of those other extrinsic factors that we are walking through the world with. So that's just a fact. Now, this can change based on who your end user and person you're trying to communicate is, and they might perceive something one way, while a whole other audience could perceive something that's exactly the same a different way. So as the designer, remember, this is a communication tool. You have to really try to understand who you're communicating with when you're choosing these colors. So 87% of consumers cite color as the primary reason they buy a particular product. I know the last time I got my phone, they had lavender and I picked it because I liked that color and I thought, oh, that'll be fun. So we do buy stuff. I don't know how many times, I've been in the store and I picked something because I like the color that it was. 93% look at visual appearance, 6% look at texture, 1% decide on sound and smell. So color is very important. It's just the first thing you see it will grab your attention and you'll have a reaction to it. Research reveals people make a subconscious judgment about an environment or product within 90 seconds of initially viewing it. Between 62 and 90% of that assessment is based on color alone. That's because you're looking at it and you make a judgment, and then maybe you'll pick it up and feel it, or you'll smell it or hear it or actually work with the product. But the first thing you do is you look and you have a reaction. 80% think color increases brand recognition. And that is definitely true. And we'll get into branding a lot more later on in the semester. So 52% of shoppers did not return to a store based on overall aesthetic. So if you don't like the look and feel and how you feel in that space, you're less likely to return there. So what does your favorite color say about you? Now, when you get into color psychology like this, it's kind of like a horoscope, you know, like take with it what you will, how true is it? But I always like to show the class these charts about color and then their emotional associations and say, do you feel like your favorite color is an accurate read of you? Is anybody spot on based on what they picked as their favorite color? Or is anybody's completely off? Oops, hold on, don't look at that slide yet. I was gonna click on the chat. So purple is you, passionate, artistic, fashionable. Definitely horoscope. Yeah, so it's just, you know, it's funny. We give things meaning that may or may not be there. But again, we are perceiving everything based on our own views of the world and what we come into it with. So I always like to see, is this accurate? Is this not accurate? Do you feel like this is true of you? Now, so this is from spring 2020. I didn't update it because I didn't have this information before class. But these are the breakdowns from the favorite color from, again, spring 2020. And you all are the most unique semester I've had yet. I will tell you that you'll see green comes in second on these charts. I have never had a class whose favorite color, majority of people's favorite color was not blue. Blue is almost the most universal favorite color of people. And every semester when I've given my class this poll, there are mostly blues. It's not always by a lot, but blue almost always wins out. And you are the first ones where green won. So there were, I took a screen capture of it. I can't remember how many of you picked green, but most of you picked green as your favorite color.
I think there were 6, either 5 or 6.
There are 5 or 6. Now that could also be when I give these polls, you can see here as I broke it down, I simplified it in this graph, but here, so there's evergreen, like people could just type it in. It wasn't a Zoom poll. So they would type in exactly what they wanted. So people would say rose gold, which is kind of interesting how favorite colors align with fashion and other industry things. I would say rose gold is not as common as it was 2 years ago. Rose gold was everywhere. Everything you'd go, like you'd go into Target, it'd be rose gold, everything, weddings, things like that. You'd see rose gold all the time. And now I feel like I see it less. And I think rose gold was even taken out of, are we at iPhone 13 now? Or 11? Did I go up too fast? I don't think there's a rose gold iPhone option. So that again tells you the cultural shifts in colors. Like those, iPhone is a good indicator of colors because they want to sell those phones and they know color is an important factor in decision making. So they will pick what is popular and put it on an iPhone. And I think rose gold is out, which is interesting. So is there a relation with male and female with blue? No, universally, it's everybody's favorite color, which is really interesting. It doesn't really matter across the board. So here's color preferences. So 42% of people usually say their overall favorite color is blue. And then it gets into green and purple, red. As you get into those really bright, bold colors, I feel like we get fewer and fewer people. And then it definitely takes a certain type of person to say gray, black, or white, but those people are out there. I think that people have a favorite color they will say, like, hey, what's your favorite color? And then they will have a favorite color that's the real favorite color if they're picking something. Do you know what I mean? Like you may not think like, oh, my favorite color is white, but if you were picking your iPhone or you were picking a car, something like that, you might pick like white. You know what I mean? Like you would be drawn to that color, but you may not think to say it. Or same with gray and silver. People probably don't think to say like gray and silver is my favorite color, But I do know a lot of people who really like black and they love black and that's their favorite color for everything. But I feel like people forget about like the grays. I think it's really interesting that I had a student in this semester say cream. Wouldn't have thought of that. But again, they were thinking of like, what is the color I choose when I'm choosing something, whether you're wearing it or picking an object or an item. And it can also be just the color you like to be around. I really like yellow. I wear a lot of yellow. There's a lot of yellow in my house. I like that bright, vivid color. But I would probably never choose a yellow car. I don't know why. Okay.
I chose white because like from a design element, it's used for accenting and highlighting and, you know, used for all this different kind of stuff. And I like the way that white makes other colors pop and it's used all the time.
Yeah.
I feel like just a normal red label is much different if there's pinstripes of white or, you know, just shading of white on one side or that one color can do a lot.
See, that's an interesting way to describe it too. And so like I was saying, like you have your favorite color and then, but you may not realize what your favorite color even is, but you're always making decisions or choosing certain things, or you like to use something a certain way. Have any of you ever seen Kim Kardashian tour of her house where it's like white? And you're like, I don't even know how you live in there, but she wants everything to be clean and pristine all the time. And that's the vibe that she wants to absorb.
I think she said that like her life outside is so chaotic that she just wants something clean.
Yeah.
So it's like everything else, like the kids can have their own craziness, but I just want to come home and nothing.
Yeah. And she wants that clean slate essentially. Yeah, so black with clothes too. Like then there's just the practicality of color and how it functions in actual like pigments and things like that. So this slide is to show you that color definitely has historical associations and connotations to it. People from different generations, different decades. There were colors that were popular in certain time periods. This Lisa Frank Dalmatian thing is super 90s. It's hilarious to me to see the 90s coming back because that's when I was a kid. I think we got Ashley back in, but that's not the person that got kicked out. Okay. So there's definitely a 70s color palette. There's palettes for decades. If you want something to look 80s, what are you going to do? You're probably going to use, again, maybe neon colors, or there's lots of pink in the 80s. There's patterns. So color is a good way to give something a sense of time as well. These two pictures, this yellow and this pink. So I haven't updated this slide for a while, but there used to be something called millennial pink, and all of us millennials, I'm not sure where the class falls as far as the millennial Gen Z scale, but millennials really liked pink to the point where it became like a joke, like millennial pink. And then for a while, they would say Gen Z yellow was trending, but I don't know if that really took on as much as it was a Gen Z thing, or we were just trying to put Gen Z in a box. But yeah, colors can definitely have associations with a generation, whether that's a generation of people or like a decade that you're trying to recreate the vibe of. So keep that in mind too. If you want something to look retro, think about what colors are popular in that time period. Zillennial. Yes. So this slide, this slide is just a slide of my favorite color palette. So if you go on something like Pinterest and you just start picking things that you like, you probably will start seeing some ties between them and different color associations. So I realized that almost everything that I am attracted to visually will have some form of this color palette. It's like that sunset desert palette. I like a burnt orange or mustard yellow. I like a sage green and a coral. And this is just like my own personal color palette. And all of you probably have something like that too. You just may not realize what it is. So how to choose your brand colors. Picking colors for your logo is not just an artistic decision based on preference. 80% of people think color increases brand recognition. So different colors elicit different psychological responses. So you have to know what you're trying to communicate and pick colors based on how you think that your audience will perceive those and what will be best for your brand recognition. So here's what the different colors mean. And, you know, for every logo that's in here that you think fits this category, there's always an exception to these rules, but these are just big generalizations. So red, you'll see it used for big brands a lot. You know, think Target, Netflix, Coca-Cola. Some of the biggest brands, you know, will use red, and it's a very bold statement. Again, when you attach these meanings to it, these are all based on mostly American preferences. In other cultures and other places, certain colors can have completely different meanings as well. So you have to know your audience and how they're going to perceive that. We use red a lot. It says danger, excitement. So think of a stop sign. There is an absolute reason why red is used for stop. It's ingrained in our brains that red means stop, danger. When you see the warning or a no sign, it's almost always red. It's a bright, vivid, attention-getting color. So green, you'll start seeing this in brands that want to evoke health and wellness. You'll see this on a lot of health brands, nature, things like that. And then also things that associate with money and wealth. Some of these can also be used because those are, you know, our money isn't cool like European money with all the colors on it. It's been, you know, considered green, even though it's not like green. When you see play money, we always make that green. And so we have these cultural associations to this color. And then of course, you know, luck with shamrocks and things like that. So think about those things and how they're perceived. Also, it can be said that green, because of its ties to nature, if you want people to feel comfortable immediately in a space, like whether it's a room or, you know, feel connected to something, because we all view green in nature and it's such a universal color that we can see like outside in the world, people will feel comfortable in your space if it features some form of green. Blue is the universal friendly color. Blue is a good neutral if you're not sure what to use. If you want it to appeal to a broad audience, think blue. Blue is always a good, safe choice, but has a lot of, what would be the word? A lot of room in that spectrum to either do like, you know, there's a navy blue and then like turquoise. So you have a lot of room within that blue spectrum, but it will be universally friendly and connect with people. So purple is always that like artsy, creative color. Royalty is always a thing that I hear about purple. It's a rarer color in nature. You know, you may not be able just to walk outside right now and see something purple growing, even though there's like beautiful purple flowers and things like that. It's not something like a tree or a leaf that you could see instantly, maybe when you go outside. Orange, again, strong emotions. Orange is probably one of those colors with the most polarizing decisions on whether people like it or not. I like orange. I think orange is a really fun color. It's bold. It's interesting to me. So it's not, you know, it's not just red or just yellow. It's orange. It's super unique. So I like orange, but, you know, some people are not a fan of orange. I feel like I find a lot of polarizing opinions on the color orange. And then yellow is always associated with cheerfulness, optimism. It's bright and friendly, and yellow is a really common color in brands that are like, see, this is DHL and Shell. So like, I would say brands that are moving. So like fast, like Amazon uses yellow, things like that. So here's just another form of this graphic where you take these logos and connect them to the colors that they're used in. You can just kind of see the range of different brands that use these different colors. So again, with green, you get everything from wellness to nature, to tech when you get into that lime color palette, a neutral color palette, and brands that use just like the black and white or gray scheme. Some of these are pretty old. I think there was a logo on here for some things that don't even really exist anymore. Yeah, there's like Payless. But you can just kind of get a sense of where you put these brands in the category based on their colors. So you'll see a lot of big universal brands in the red: Kmart, Target, Coca-Cola. Here in yellow, again, lots of brands that are like moving. UPS, DHL was in the last one. Things with energy. So pick logo colors that fit your brand personality, appeal to your target audience, are different than your competitors, and make sense for your product and service. That's all you got to do. No big deal. That easy. So if you're trying to choose colors for your design, does this fit the personality of the brand? Will the audience receive this well? Is it a color that they will like? And then you do want to try to be different than your competitors. You want to be able to stand out and not get lumped in with something else. And then it has to make sense for your product and service. So if you're going to combine colors, pick colors that work well together and find a balance. Most interior designers suggest a 60-30-10 rule of color combination. I always like to say you pick a main color and then you can pick, like for a logo design, keep it to 2 to 3 colors, and then have for overall branding, you can pick a whole color palette to add to that can keep your brand fresh, and everything should have a certain harmony to it. Here's what I'm talking about. This is my vibrating color palette. Do you see, looking at these, how this one especially, they are so hard to read because of the value of the colors layered on top of each other. This one's probably the easiest. This one's vibrating a lot. If I were to back up here, like I almost have to squint because it feels like it's moving. Can you see that? Yeah. So, So that's what I'm talking about when you want to make sure this graphic here, you want to make sure you have good contrast. So this, that top bar, can you see me? It has good contrast. That yellow and that black is really easy to see. The one below it has bad contrast. It could also be used as a stylistic technique when you want something to be really subtle and calming. You can use colors like that on top of each other, but you have to know what your end user is going to see. If you were to print this, it might be really difficult to read. So you want to make sure you have good contrast. And then just be aware of emotional color groups, where warm colors versus cool colors versus neutrals. Again, if you pick something neutral, something found in nature, people already have a connection to it and it's easy for them to feel comfortable and understand. And then based on warm or cool, you're setting, no pun intended, you're setting the tone for how people will perceive the design. And then this last slide, I believe this is the last slide. This is just some things pulled off of Pinterest that would show you how to look for color palettes. But like I said, I used to say, just like I told you with type pairing, font pairings, you can go to Pinterest and type in font pairing and find these things that go together. There are also lots of sites and lots of ways to find color palettes, but I'll jump right in here. Adobe has it built in now with their Creative Suite, and it makes it really useful. So I had Pinterest pulled up just to kind of show you again, like if any of you are users of Pinterest, when you start pinning things, when you go to your homepage, it just feeds you things that it thinks you're going to like. So I actually was looking up camp stuff because I was helping one of my clients rename a campground. So it's very camp heavy currently, But if I scroll down, you'll see that Pinterest knows my color palette and what I like. It knows that I like bright colors. It knows that, you know, things like in this range are going to appeal to me. And it's a good way to kind of, especially if we're going to do personal branding and you choose your own personal brand at the end for the final, it's a good way to figure out who you are and what you like. Some of you might have a really defined sense of self, and some of you might really struggle with identifying your color palette and what you like. And so Pinterest can be a really good tool for that. And I always tell people, just start pinning whatever you like. Doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter what the actual picture is of. If you feel a connection to it, whether through color or shape or design, just give it a pin and then open up that board and see where those connections are. So this week's to-dos, you have an assignment and a project. The project is really simple, and the assignment is where you'll have more creative input. This site right here, I'm going to open it up. This is a really great tool that Adobe has. I'm going to show you all how to use it, and you can even use it in your assignment. Although the assignment was written before this was a tool, it would be really, it's a really great tool for you to use, and you can even add your swatches to open them up in Illustrator. So I also have here, you can test your color vision. And if you're not sure how well you view color, some of you may not even realize that you have a color deficiency, or you just may not have developed your eye enough to really see the differences between colors. And this test is really, I was gonna say fun. I think it's fun because I can do it pretty well. But what you do is you're going through each of these rows, and it has, this one goes from pink to this yellow color, and they're all kind of muted tones where they don't seem that different. They're all within the same analogous family, but when you start sliding them, you'll start seeing the differences, and you move things that are more of this yellow to this end, and you move things that are more pink to this end. And as you slide them around, and you start seeing the differences, see how close these are? I want you all to do this for yourself too. Now, to do this really well, you can sit and you can just mess with it and really look and try to align. That looks pretty good. I'm not sure. No, that was right. See how so I was like, I'm not sure if this is right. And then I slide it over and I can see the difference. This one's definitely more orange and this one has more magenta in it. So I moved it back. And then same here, you're going from this green to this blue, and you can sit here and do all of it. I won't make you watch me do this whole test, but this will be a really good way to test your own eye. And if you can see these differences between the colors as you move them around, and then you just hit score. You have to do the whole thing. I'm probably not going to get a great score because I didn't do the whole thing. And then it will tell you how well your color vision is. Now, if you try really hard on this and you completely botch it and you realize, oh man, I might have a color deficiency, there's some links to help you with that. But what is so great about this new tool for Adobe Color Wheel, you can actually, goodness, I forgot where it was. I just took the tour of this earlier today, where you can actually have accessibility tools right here. It has an accessibility tool, so you can make sure that people can see and visualize your design well. It shows you the contrast ratio. And if any of you get into web design, this is really important. But it's also just important, like we have accessibility tools in Canvas as well. Like it tells me, like, it'll give me a rating if it thinks that it's hard to see something or I haven't written the caption on it. Especially in this day and age, it's really important to make sure that everyone can access your information. So it'll give you a fail and a pass based on if it thinks that it's easy to read. So you can play around with these in the contrast checker or colorblind safe. And so it's in that link under accessibility tools. And I think that's really cool that this is all here for you. I left some of these links in here, but there was like choosing color and there's some articles. But now you can do everything right in Adobe. And what's really cool, if you want to extract a theme or a gradient, and you have something like I had where I said, hey, this is my favorite color. I love the colors in this image. Let's see, I had this all organized, but I lost all of my folder windows. Okay. Here we go. So here's 2 of those images that I said I really liked. You can just drag one in here and then it will identify the colors for you. So these numbers, these D9A404, that is, does anyone know what color scheme that is? I think Danielle was talking, but your microphone wasn't on.
Oh no, I was thinking, I was like,
oh, okay, you're just thinking, okay. It's hexadecimal. So that is a web color. So when you're designing on a web, if any of you have even made a site like on the back end, the colors are identified based on this, a series of numbers and letters. But you can change this in Illustrator or Photoshop into any color scheme you want, but it just set this, it's right now it's in hexadecimal. Let's see if I hover. Okay, so then that number is copied to my clipboard. See, it just said copy to clipboard. This is a really cool tool. And I just started messing around with this recently. So I copied that to my clipboard. So then if I were to go into Illustrator, I have to make sure I'm using that system, and I would put that in here. And now I have that color. And if I wanted to add another color from that palette, I could copy this one and just type it right in there. And so it's, see, this is the hexadecimal, but this is RGB. And then if I wanted this color to also be in CMYK, I have to make sure it's in the front, and then I just change it to CMYK, and that's the CMYK equivalent. So that is a really cool tool you can use. If you have an image that you like, and you just like the color palette, and you want to know what those colors are so that you can use them in your design, you can use Adobe Color Wheel. If you are logged in, and see it, even so right now it's at colorful, bright, within the same image, it'll give you different color palettes. So muted, deep, dark. And then you can do a gradient, extract gradient, and it'll tell you how to make a gradient based off of different points in the image. Isn't that neat? And then if you like these color palettes, you can actually save them to your library. I'm going to put COM3170 sample, and then I can save it. And this is where it gets a little tricky. It did take me a minute to figure this out today. Let me see, that's awesome. Yeah, it's a really cool tool. I used to show you how to do this by dropping this image into Illustrator and then just eyedropping it around. But with this tool, and even with this color wheel tool, so see, it has my color palette up, and you can just, you know, move things around and experiment. And then again, it has analogous, it has monochromatic, and you can just change these around until you get something that feels right for what you're trying to accomplish. So really use this. Feel free to use this for your assignment this week, and I'll go over that in detail next. But if I hop back over here, so I saved that color palette, and now I want those colors to go into my swatches. You'll see down here, it's already there. This one has a different name because I did that earlier to practice and figure this out. And it said, if I hop over here, when I first opened this, it gave me a tip on what to do, and then I couldn't remember what it said. So I had to even refresh my browser and get that tip, and then YouTube it because I couldn't figure out what I was doing was going to swatches and open swatch libraries, but you have to go to your library. So you can create libraries, and I opened up window libraries. And what's so funny is all of these libraries, I'm still like a little bit old school. Like, it's funny when Mike popped in, like he's even old schooler than me because he's older than me. Like, these tools, we didn't get to like start learning design with all of these tools. We've adapted and changed each time Adobe updates their software. So it's actually really cool that someone in his generation who started off without even using computer software stayed in it. So you really have to learn and grow in a field like this and constantly learn how to update these things. So if I click on, I made a color palettes library today so that I can get this in here. So this is the library. I put that color palette in, and see it says COM 3170. I named it and I put that in there. So when I go to libraries, and again, if you don't have yours, window library, and then because I had all these other libraries, see how I just have like 5 my libraries? What those are things that I have copied and pasted into Photoshop, and Photoshop will save it in a library. And I just like randomly do this without even thinking or caring that this is a thing. And each time I was doing something like that with a different version of Photoshop open or whatever, it was creating a library for me, and I didn't really even know or pay attention. So today, when I was trying to find the swatch palette, I was like, gosh, where is it? And I had to go all the way down and see it's in this one. So then that's why I made one that said color palette, so I would know right where it goes. So you can name these and you can create new groups so that you know where to save stuff. But this is a new tool. This didn't used to be part of the Adobe software. So again, I've just been like haphazardly making libraries without even realizing it. So something for you all to be aware of as you use the software. And these are like, for some reason, when you copy from Illustrator and you paste it into Photoshop, it makes almost like an icon library for you. And I think it comes up as an option. So I probably just clicked it a couple times being like, oh, whatever, I don't care. But now I know why. So it's something that you can save as a library. So you could pull up, you can make a whole library. Say you have a brand and you're making icons, like social media icons or things that you're constantly going to reuse. You can make yourself a library so that you can pop them into your templates and things like that really easily. But you could also save any color palette you want. So say this is the new color palette I like. I don't know, what would we call this one? It's kind of a retro, earthy color palette. I'll just name it retro. Kind of get 70s vibes from it. And if I click save, and I go to Illustrator, let's see, it's there now. And then you have to right click and you have to say add theme to swatches. And there it is down here in this folder. And it'll be added to your swatches. So I think that's a really cool tool to be able to use. And I hope that you find this useful, and just play around on the site and you'll find it really useful. Again, you can change any of these and you can upload your own photo, but then up here, they have explore. Hold on, let me refresh this. It's stuck. Come on. Of course, isn't this fitting for today? I don't know why it's not. Let me just close this window, open a new link. No idea what's going on. I don't know why it's not loading. It's because okay, well, we're just gonna move right on past that. I hope it works for everyone else. It's not my internet because I still see all of you here, right? Nobody's frozen. Okay, so what I was going to show you, if I refresh, you can see it really quickly. There's the Explorer and then Trends, and those are really fun. So you can just click on those tabs too, and it will actually show you like color trends, and it has a photo up and it's breaking down the same thing I just did by importing that photo. It's breaking down the colors. Let me see if I hop into, oh, look, this, I have this browser open. So Explore, yeah, I don't know why it's not working in Firefox, but here you can explore different color palettes as well. And then Trends in fashion, and different industries do have different colors that become popular and things like that. Illustration. So food is interesting, how these palettes all are heavily warm tones. And even in this palette, which you would say is a little more neutral on the neutral side, just look how rich and warm, like that peachy color and that brown, they still have a lot of warm tones, even though they're being paired with like that navy color. It's not like it's a bright, vivid turquoise color. It still has like a warm feeling to it when it comes to food. So just something interesting for all of you to explore. And then your libraries is where I was. It'll store all of your libraries for you. You have to make sure you're logged in here too. If you're not logged in, you can still use the create tools, but you'll just do what I did when I was copying the color, or you just have to remember these codes. But if you're logged in, you can actually save them and you can get them in your software. So with that, I will hop back over here. I think that covers the module. Again, I have a lot of resources and links up here that I used to have everyone read. There's some good articles if you want to delve into this more. But really, now that Adobe has this tool, I want you all to really just explore and play around with this, and just look at that. When you just drag it and you can see where it's going based on what we were learning in the lecture. It's really fun to be able to do this. So it's a really cool tool. Stop screen sharing for a minute. I know that was a lot to throw at you. I'm going to go over the assignment next. So do we need a break? Keep going. I'll just go ahead and keep going. If you need a break and you want to pop back in, you take a break. But I know we wasted a lot of class time on some troubleshooting and totally random things tonight. So I'm just going to keep going.
This is going over assignment 3, the Bakersfield, California.
Oh, no. This is going over what you will be doing this week. Did anyone have, and I'll ask questions if any of you, and answer questions at the end of this, if any of you had trouble with that assignment. I actually haven't viewed that one yet, but you should have grades for a lot of other things. Okay. Let me get the assignments up here.
So then the one next week is going to be project 3, the using
Yes.
typing. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So we'll do that one. And then the assignment is just the typography days of the week. And there's even a document that you can start with. You can download it. I'm going to get that opened up. And all this is to, again, it's a carryover from last week to help all of you continue those associations with font and color, and that they have meaning, and that the way you use them will mean something different to people and come with different perceptions. Let me just open that document really quickly. So it's a PDF, and you can drag your PDFs or file open in Illustrator. window, go back to screen sharing. Oh, we have a Discord group from this class, I think.
You do?
I
Didn't
don't know.
Oh.
I got
don't
Discord
know.
once because,
Oh, I don't think we do actually.
okay, well,
It's
we
for,
can make one.
strategic. Yeah, it's a different one.
It might have just been for that one semester, but absolutely we can do that. I have a Discord account.
I could throw it together really quickly.
All right. Extra credit for Corey. Okay, so I'm going to screen share. This is what the PDF will look like when you open it up. And it has a quote and then it has the days of the week. And I always explain to the class, I use days of the week because as a society, we've decided these are real things and we have psychological associations with them. Like thanks to Garfield, which might be a really old reference, like, oh, Mondays, oh, Monday, and then Saturday, Sunday, fun day, Taco Tuesday. You know, we have assigned meaning to these days and feelings of them based on how we do like a 7 day a week calendar. So what you're going to do is pick a font and a different color for each one of these. Now, what people tend to do is pick, you know, Saturday and they come over here to the swatches palette and they pick stuff and just kind of change the colors and then find a, you know, a font to match. I really want you, now that I showed you how to use that Adobe tool, to try to refine your color palette and make each one of these different, but still have a nice vibe so they all fit together. And you're just going to change the font. And to make sure all of you know, you can get your characters, properties character, or you can open up window and type and character to change that. And I want you to pick 7 different fonts and 7 different colors for each one of these based on how you perceive or feel about the day. Maybe you want something that feels really formal and, you know, official for Monday. Maybe you want something that can, like for Tuesday, feel really fun because you like to go out for Taco Tuesday. Tacos have really saved Tuesday and given it a good reputation. Trying to find something that I feel like in my, here's one, that's kind of fun. I don't know. You know, and then Wednesday, just pick, I've had students be like, well, Wednesday is the day that I get to do this. So I picked this color because it makes me think of this. It can be really personal, but, or it can just be generalizations. But my point is each one should have a different font and it should have a different color. And it's just a good exercise to get you starting to think about meaning and what you're trying to convey when you're choosing these things. And then over here, I want you to pick this quote apart, and you absolutely can pick a quote of your choice. It does not have to be this quote. I'm just providing it for you to give you a starting point because, again, when it's an assignment like this, it's just a learning tool. You do not have to spend a lot of time obsessing over it. So I'm giving you a starting point, but always feel free to adapt it if you don't like it and if you want to do something different. So what you're going to do is pick this quote apart, and I want you to make this quote feel visually like what it's saying. And again, it can, you can change it to anything if you pick a different quote. So you might want to, you know, copy and paste it and bring the name apart. You can just change it with the text tool, or you can actually remove the words and retype them and move them around. You could do it line by line. So maybe you want to do, create a hierarchy for it. by breaking up the lines. You can choose how you want to break it up, but what you're going to do is give it more meaning and intention by the fonts that you choose. And you can add color too if you'd like. So maybe laughter, since that is the main part of the word, maybe you want laughter to be really big and stand out. Maybe you want laughter to look fun and flowy. And you choose the font that you feel represents that. I'll just go with this font for right now. And you can even you can change how they align. So maybe you want to tuck this in here. These are all choices that you get to make. Now, remember when you have things, what I was running into here, I'll zoom in. When you're working with fonts, and you might have ran into this last week, that are not converted to outlines, it can be hard to grab certain things. See how I want to keep picking up without, and I wanted to highlight it and get rid of that return space. But every time I do, it goes down to laughter and highlights that. That's because I still have my type as type. And when they get close together, you can run into issues. So you can either, once you know that this is the font you want to use, you can go type, create outlines. So that way you can move it around more easily, or just know that that's what's happening. And just know you have to move things apart, move it away from something else so you can get in there and you can get those returns out if they bother you, or if you're having trouble picking something up. Because that was keeping me from scaling this the way that I wanted it to. And so you can tuck things in here. And you can make it all very different. I'm just arbitrarily making choices right now. I hope you'll do this with a lot more intention. But that's the gist of what you're doing. You're going to select fonts, and then you can even go in here and add color to this as well. And you can even do the same exact thing with a completely different quote of your choosing. But again, this is an assignment. It's an exercise to help you practice and learn the skill. You're always allowed to go above and beyond, but don't let this hinder you from putting a lot of creative energy into the project. So that is the assignment. And I want you just to work on this as an exercise and practice choosing fonts and colors based on associations and meanings. And then, so that's here. This is where you download it. And there are instructions for that and I just went over it, and I will upload this video as well. If I go back to the module, I just like to pop into student view to make sure you can see everything I'm seeing. Then we'll do the project 3, which is using type and color together. So again, I'm giving you some starting points so that you can start thinking about how you want the color and the type to convey a meaning. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a logo type. Does anyone know what a logo type is? Have you heard that vocabulary word before? A logo type is what we call in the biz a logo that's only made of typography. There's no mark or icon associated with it. So lots of brands have logo types. And then lots of brands have marks and logo types, and they have what's called a lockup, where you use them both together, or you can break them apart. And then you just have the mark, or you just have the logo type. Trying to look for something around me currently. I guess this is the only example. I'm like, that's embarrassing, but it's what I have around, and it's been a weird night anyway. So Dunkin', this Dunkin' logo, that is used as a logo type right now. It's just the logo. I know it says Dunkin'. I know it says Dunkin' even if I can't read it. And this is Dunkin's logo type. So you're going to be creating a logo type. That means you don't need a mark associated with it. You're going to create a logo just out of typography, and you're going to select colors for it. So to do that, you're going to create a logo type that communicates a mood and feeling by demonstrating your understanding of typography and color and how they work together. I have the definition of a logotype there for you. And your logo, your fictional business that you will be deciding, you will pick a color word and a day of the week, and then you're going to combine those, and that is your fictional business that you'll be designing for. So this is really fun. You get to decide, you get to select these things. I have some color words there for you as examples if you're having trouble thinking of things. You can use very basic color words, red, yellow, green, blue, or you can go into crimson, marigold, amber, burgundy, like things like that, and really get like a whole different vibe. It's totally up to you. It doesn't even have to be on this list, but it has to be a color name. And then you're going to pick a day of the week to go with that. And then that is your business. And then you get to decide what that business means, what it does, and you will make decisions based on what you are deciding. It's really fun when we start off with these fictional businesses and you're just making things up, because you get to decide these decisions and really put a lot of your own interest in it. So you can pick, you know, something based on something you like. So you're creating a logotype by combining these two words. You begin with concept sketches. So I want you to spend some time sketching this out once you pick your two words that are going to be your business name, and figure out how they fit together best and convey the look you want to achieve. Don't settle for just typing it straight across. Maybe they're stacked, maybe they're skewed. Like, you have to decide and figure out how this best fits. And then you're going to pick a color scheme, use monochromatic, analogous, complementary, secondary, tertiary, any of those things we just discussed. And you're going to create the color palette and create a dynamic, interesting design within a 5x5 canvas on Illustrator. So this is what I want you to turn in. It will be a square. It'll have your color palette. And then you will put your design here. And then you'll just get a quick little description. And there's a video for this going step by step, but I will show you one part that can be a little bit tricky. But this is all in Illustrator. So the second part, this is what you'll do for part one. And then the second part, because I want you to have some experience using Photoshop, is to find a photo that you feel represents the brand, the logotype you've developed. And for the purposes of this project, you can source it from anywhere. You can borrow it off the internet, you can steal, or you can take it yourself. You can use Google image searches. I have a link to Unsplash there, which is a good source. And then using Photoshop, you're going to combine your logotype and words with a picture that you feel connects to your business, and you're going to do it in an interesting way. And make sure that image and photo connect in some way. So you need an element to overlap somehow. A lot of students forget that connection part and they just plop their logotype into the photo. I want you to take that extra step and make sure that it connects. And then you're going to import both of your designs in an 8.5x11 InDesign file and create one page for your logotype and one page for your photo, and then list the colors. So this is actually done in InDesign. So if I am doing this right now with you, I'm going to start in Illustrator. I'm going to make this 5x5. And I'm just going to go with Blue Monday because that was the example I had written there. And I always want to be cautious of taking, if I use something really, you're like, oh, that was my idea, and now she's doing it, I feel like I can't do it. So I want to leave you lots of creative freedom. I'm just going to use the Blue Monday example right here. So this is my 5x5 inch. Be cautious if you do this in pixels, it could be very small and you may not be able to figure out why. But because it's a vector file, and we learned 2 weeks ago how to save EPS files, if you save it as a vector file as an EPS, it can be infinitely scalable as long as it's the right proportions. So here's my 5x5. I'm going to lock that background layer. And then I'm going to type Blue Monday going to do, again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time making these creative decisions. I just want you to be able to see the process. Then you can watch that video as well. So even as I said, don't just settle for typing it straight out. I'll just do this for now. And let's say, and you don't even have to center it in the square. You can decide. I've even had students use like gradients as the background and things like that. So I use this dark blue. I felt like that fit well. And then I have to think about what I want my color palette to be. So do I want to do monochromatic, analogous, complementary? And I'm just going for something really dark and moody. So I'm going to stick to an analogous color palette and just pick another shade of blue or green. And then this is all I'm going to do for right now. I hope you put more thought into it than this. And I can post more examples. Again, it's that whole thing, like, do you want to see a lot or do you want to be able to do like your own thing? So I file, save as. Project sample. And then I save it as EPS, and I can save this as, you know, the name of my business. And the reason I want you to think of this as a business, because you're gonna do like Blue Monday. What would that be? What do I think this is? Is this like a cocktail lounge? Is it, I think it is a band, right? There's lots of bands that have like things like this. So it could be a band, it could be a coffee shop, it could be absolutely anything you decide. But the next step is to take this into Photoshop and then make another 5x5 square. So I already have here this picture of London. It's not a square. So my first step, I'm going to go ahead and crop this. And you know, if you want to make a square crop in Photoshop and it has this, you just start cropping and hold down Shift and it'll give you a square. So I'm going to copy my type over. This is my logo type. This is how I decided it was. This is just a background to give me another layer of color and more decisions to make. But if this is my business logo, this right here is how you would always see my logo type. So I'm going to copy that, Command C or File Copy. Then I'm going to hop over to Photoshop and paste this in. And it will ask you, I should do that again because that was a little too fast. If I hit Command V, which is paste, it will ask me if I want pixels or a smart object. If you are going to hit OK and scale this right afterwards, it's perfectly fine to use it as pixels. If you put it as a smart object, you can edit it in Illustrator as you make decisions. So if you think you're going to, do you have a question?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just curious, I need to get the color palette off of that Adobe Creative wheel onto Illustrator. I forgot how to do that step. I'm trying to follow along.
Okay, yeah, so you can, did you already save it?
Yeah.
So if you've already saved it, you want to go to libraries. And if you don't have it open, go to Windows, Libraries.
And if it's not there, should it be there?
It should be there. Make sure you're logged into both.
Oh, got it. There it is. Thank you.
Okay. Sometimes it takes a minute to like know that you're doing that. Yeah.
Professor, I had another question too. I used the dual 5x5 because I thought I was gonna mess up. How do we delete the additional canvas that we set up? Because I was using the same setup that we did for the typeface.
So if you decide you want to change the size of your artboard after you've started working on something, in the toolbar, you click on this one, see artboard tool.
Okay. Okay.
And then you can just scale it manually, but sometimes it's hard to hit an exact point. So I hardly
Okay.
ever, then you go to properties and you can just type in the size over on the side.
How would we delete like if we have two artboards on
Oh,
there
okay, so
though?
then if you're here, see how it's, let me add one. So artboards, you can just add artboards like this. See, I've added
Okay.
two. I have 3 right now. If I zoom out, I have 3. I'm like, I don't even want that on there. So I click that artboard tool again, and I can just click on them individually, and I just hit delete.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, so hopping back over to Photoshop, I just used pixels and pasted this in. And then, like I said, you know what, let me actually back up a step further. Now that I'm seeing it, I feel like there's a way to do this in a more interesting way. So I'm going to crop actually like this. I don't know. You can play this. You can play around with what you think will be interesting, but for the sake of showing you something quickly, I'm going to do it like this. So I've got my pixel based word in here. I'm going to scale it up. So see how that Y is going past that the tower, it's the Tower of London or Big Ben. It's not the Tower of London, it's Big Ben. And then it's crossing over this little, what is it, a spire or whatever, like that point. So that then I can make it look like it's coming over the top of my photo. So I left this as pixels. And the way we're going to do this is through clipping masks. And clipping masks are really great because it's non-destructive editing. And I take you through it in that video as well. But this video, keep in mind, this video is a couple semesters old and there have been updates since then, but clipping masks are still essentially the same. So if you haven't explored this in Photoshop, down here, there's the rectangle with the circle. That's how you make a clipping mask. And for the way I decided to do this, a really easy way to make a clipping mask, let's see how well this works. So here are selection tools. This is the object selection tool. Sometimes you get really lucky and you can just hover this over what you want to grab. I'm actually on the wrong layer for that, but see how it grabbed those letters? I can just hover this over here and look, it grabs the clock tower for me. So this makes it really easy. This object selection tool sometimes works wonderfully. And if I want to grab the other parts of the building, I just hold down Shift and select more of them. And see, that one didn't quite work as well. It just depends on how identifiable the pixels are and how well this can work. Object select actually works really great for clipping people out. So if I just hit undo, I got rid of that. And then you can also use things like the magic wand. I believe you'll see me in the video use the magic wand instead of the object select tool. But I want this to cross over. So I selected the tower. I'm coming up to the type layer. And then I'm going to select inverse and then hit the layer mask. And you'll see that Y disappeared. Did I do that too fast? So now that yeah. So if I go back a couple steps, I use my object select to grab this tower. See what's in the chat. It's all recorded, yeah. You can go back and watch. But I grabbed the tower. If I were to just go, but I wanted to eliminate the type layer. So I moved up to the type layer. And then if I were just to hit layer mask now, it actually does the opposite. So you have to go to select inverse, and I want it to cover everything but what's inside that selection. And then I hit the layer mask. And now that I have a layer mask for this, I can actually zoom in here. And you can do it this way as well, but using things like object select make it really easy. If you are a manual person and you'd like to do this whole thing by hand, you don't have to use the wand or object select or any of the marching ants tools, you can simply put a layer mask on your layer by clicking this icon down at the bottom, and you can get a brush tool. So the way layer masks work is that when you use a gradient between black and white, it's either going to eliminate or show what is on that layer. It's a mask that's there. You can change this to a gray value and it will show an opacity of it. But if you're on black, it will eliminate. And if you change it to white, see here, see I'm clicking between black and white and I have my paintbrush, and white will show what's under there. So see, this type layer has the mask on it. And when I paint white on this layer, it shows. And when I paint black on this layer, it hides it. So if I want to go in and manually zoom in and use my brush, and you can adapt the hardness and the feather, like maybe it's something that's like feathery and you need a little bit of like, you don't want that hard edge, you can change that up here in the settings. And then you can just paint out what you don't want. So if I'm doing this, and see if I went too far, I can make my brush smaller. I'm using the brackets on the keyboard right now to make my brush smaller without having to go up here and change it. And then I use X on the keyboard to switch between black and white without having to constantly change it over here. And then you can paint in around that. So some of you might just want that kind of control. And then you could do the same thing over here. Switch it to black because I want to hide this. And see how it looks like that type is now behind the building? So I want you to add some element of that into your design. And you can decide where that's going to be depending on what image you choose. And then you'll go File, Save As. And you will go to, I'm going to Project Sample because that's where I saved everything. And you can save, you can import a PSD file into InDesign, especially if you think you might edit this. Once you save this as a JPEG, it's a lot more work. So if you want your layers, save it as a Photoshop file and you can still drop that into InDesign or save it as a JPEG. And then remember our project. And I want you to create a 8.5 by 11, and it will be a 2-page document. And then File, Place. You'll start off with your EPS. And then you'll make another page. And you can even do this if you'd like it to be in the exact same place with a little less work. Oops. You can just import that in. So now I have 2 pages you'll see up here. They're not quite in the same place because I moved it. But if you just like copied this page, then you could just import the next one. And then follow the directions. And you're going to add the color scheme breakdown and the paragraph. So just follow the directions and make sure you have those components all added in and get more comfortable in InDesign adding type and things like that in there. So it should be fun. You get to pick whatever you want to associate with this. You want me to pull up some examples from past semesters? I'll go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing those.
Okay. Let me grab some of the good ones. this semester. Let me look in this folder. I'm trying to find some that have the photography component example as well. Oh, that's this semester. Too early. Oh, here we go. Okay, well, these only have the part 1 on them, but I'll show you anyway. And then part 2, adding that photography component, that is just to give you that extra lesson and start getting comfortable in Photoshop. So here's some from past semesters. So again, this is Crimson Monday. It has the color breakdown and then the explanation on here. This one is technically, it has some marks in it, but it still looks pretty cool. But again, you shouldn't really have to add anything else. It's just logo type. So again, this one, Saturday, has more hierarchy. So it's Yellow Saturday. And then the color palette breakdown with the explanation. Marigold Monday, the explanation, the color palette breakdown. It's up to you whether you want to do CMYK, RGB, or hexadecimal as you break this down. It actually might tell you what to do in the instructions. So if you read that and it says to pick one or the other, do it the right way, but you'll see these are kind of varied. So this one's really cool. I think this is a really cool logo type. It's got the layering going on. It's a really cool typeface. And then it's it has one of my favorite colors in the color palette. So that's probably why I'm partial to it, but I like that mustard yellow and it's broken down. So here's another one where again, a mark was added to this one. I find that my more advanced students, the student was pretty advanced already, and this student was too. They have a harder time just adding type, like they want to add something else to it. So if you're really feeling like you need to add something else, which is funny because this student also added some extra, but it can also be really simple and effective. This one too, Teal Friday. And you'll see here in their descriptions, Fridays are relaxing and fun, and they explain a little bit about where their inspiration came from and what they were visualizing with this business. This one has a really cool connection between the type, it's an interesting solution, and then soft, playful, sweet. Reminds me of sunshine and pink lemonade. So it can be a really simple explanation. You don't have to write a huge analysis of why you chose these, but just supplement why you made your color decisions. And when I read stuff like this, soft, playful, sweet, and I look at this and like, yeah, that is exactly what you portrayed here in this. And even the typeface with that little curly end and like the really delicate serifs is all communicating the intention that was there. And then you'll go that extra step of putting it into the video or into the photo. Let's see if I click over here. No, let me go back here. So again, the video will walk you through all of these steps. And this is how to do that component. And in this video, I put it behind this almond blossom leaf. So 2 pages, follow the instructions. I'll upload this video. You can rewatch this video. You can watch all the other supplemental videos. And if you're still stuck or unsure, just ask me. Okay. That is the lesson for the week. What I think is really important is that you open up that Adobe color wheel page and practice in it and play around with it and just really start thinking, oh, I got that email too. Thank you, Danielle. So don't forget to turn in your vaccine stuff or you'll be locked out of classes at the end of the month. I thought that was a really weird repercussion of for that because we're virtual. That's how we access virtual stuff. But I got that email too, and they said to make sure you do that. I don't want anyone to lose access to Canvas. So I got it too. I got the warnings. Did you say something, Ash? You're muted.
I was just yeah, I don't know what the stipulations are. All my classes are remote, but I need to at least do something about it soon because I don't have my booster yet. And they're like, you're gonna be locked out of your classes on Monday. So I'm like, I hope that's not the case. We are, but I know that some classes went back to face-to-face, so I don't know what the situation is.
As a remote class, I thought, well, that's silly. This is how they access that and everyone's remote. But if you are on campus, it's just, you know, I just don't want anyone to get locked out. If that happens, email me. We'll make sure we fix it. But yeah, I got the same email because I hadn't uploaded my my booster information yet. And so they're like, you have to do this. I was like, oh, shoot, they're very serious about it, which is good.
I know. Were they at least like, because I'm planning to do it this weekend. So as soon as you uploaded it, was it like automatically recognized?
It was. They said this could take 7 to 10 days. Like it gave me like a time frame, but it was instant. So I hope it's the same case for all of you and you don't run into any problems. But
well, thank you.
You're welcome. So good luck with that. Let me know if you get locked out of anything. Remember, everyone, if you log into Zoom from a foreign Zoom to let me know. We might lock you out of class. So thanks for hanging in there for a very weird class day. But again, this topic is really fun. And 2 biggest things to elevate your design aesthetic. Know your typography pairings and how they go well together, and understand color. Because the minute you move off of those like swatches, primary colors, and you can pick really interesting font choices that have like a harmony between everything, you're going to look like you're a better designer, whether you know how to use these programs or not. So keep that in mind. Okay.
Woo. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a question for Ariane. We were messaging on the side and making sure that she could get into Discord before I left.
Oh, okay. I need to copy that link too.
Oh, and I had a question actually about the last project from last week.
Oh yeah, and if you don't have questions, feel free to hop off. If you have questions about last week or anything else, stick around.
Because my only question was okay, so at one point I was trying to take the excess off the hashtag so I could make it into a little square, but it said that you can't do it at anchor points. So it's only in the middle sections. I think I just started just using the eraser tool and more the knife at that point. But it's I just was I wasn't think those were I wasn't thinking those were endpoints because they were still connected. But are they still then?
I'm pretty sure if you use the scissors, it will let you do it.
I mean, I already did some other stuff and I just turned it in, but I was I kind of wanted to figure out.
Yeah, it's either, so I would get that warning and I did it in class accidentally. If I wasn't on the right, I didn't click on it just right, it would give me that warning. For a hashtag, it's probably either the compound path, if you deleted the compound path, or I'm guessing if you use the scissors, you would be able to do those points exactly if you give that a try.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure, but I could troubleshoot it with you if you want to, but it sounds like you kind of did that.
I think I used like different items to like kind of do the same thing, but like I still used like the scissor tool. It's just like that one was more of the like, I'm having difficulty with this shape. I'm guessing it's probably the points that I was doing, but I just kind of
Yeah,
yeah.
like there's like a handful of ways to do everything too. So if that was
Mhm.
happening to me, I would use it, get a hashtag also. And I could also like put, like, say I just wanted the edges to come off.
Mhm.
So you could either hover over with the pen tool and see if it lets you delete each one, or you can just draw a box over it and use the Pathfinder tools and like eliminate.
Ooh, I didn't think about that. Yeah, that could have worked too. Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
We're still trying to. I'm still trying to troubleshoot with her.